Okay. Thank you very much. Welcome everyone, public members and officers who are here today. Thank you very much for joining us today. Number two, in case of fire alarms, which we haven't got any planned fire alarms going off, everyone should immediately leave this building through the nearest door and assemble at the car park near Clarence House, please. Anybody who needs to use the Wi-Fi, the Swindon free Wi-Fi password is sounds, layers, slices, all lower cases. Apologies of absence, please.
No apologies for absence have been received, Chair.
Thank you very much. Declaration of interest. Members are reminded that they should declare any known interest in any matter to be considered. Members should also make a declaration should it become apparent during the meeting that they have an interest in the matters being discussed. I invite members to make any declaration at this time by stating which agenda the item is to be related to, whether it's a personal or prejudicial interest, and nature of the interest. I have one hand. Councillor Adams.
About 5 years ago, I was the petitioner for a Save the Oasis campaign. So that'd be a personal, non-prejudicial.
Okay. Councillor Ballinger.
Thank you, Chair. Just to declare on items 5 that I have had discussion with Save the Oasis Swindon previously on the Oasis applications. And with respect to item 8, another personal non-prejudicial, in that I've met with Swindon Guide Dogs and supported fundraising events, just in terms of the motion on for the blind and visually impaired.
Thank you very much. Councillor Sumner.
Thank you, Chair. I'm a member of the Planning Committee, so I will declare an interest and not ask any questions on the Oasis item on the agenda, so that I don't prejudice my impartiality at Planning Committee.
Thank you very much, Councillor Sumner. Councillor Hopkins.
Similarly, I'm on the Planning Committee, so I wouldn't want to better my discretion of Planning Committee, so I will refrain from answering questions.
Thank you very much. Councillor Cooley.
I'm on the planning committee as well, so same as everybody else.
Well, I have to declare that I'm a deputy on there.
Yes, sir.
Planning as well.
So am I. As well. So I'll be quiet on the Oasis as well.
Councillor
Can I
Adams.
throw another one in? So I've had conversations with Save the Oasis in the past as well, but still non-prejudicial. I am on the Planning Committee, but I'm about as biased on this as possible, so I won't sit on that item, so I'll talk as much as I want. So.
Thank you very much. Anyone else? Councillor Llewellyn.
Come okay?
What planning committee?
Not anymore.
Oh, not anymore.
I think you're the only one who can ask questions.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much. Agenda 3 minutes to receive the minutes of the meeting held on 11th of January, July 2024, and to confirm their accuracy. And members of that they have taken and read the minutes. Can I take it as agreed?
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
Thank you. Public question time. Public question time is limited to 15 minutes, with the support of the committee to extend it longer if required. No notification of public question has been received prior to the meeting. Is that correct?
Yes, Chair.
Do you have anyone in the public who would like to ask a public question? Okay. Thank you very much. Move to agenda 5. Council motion on Oasis. Can I get Councillor Small to present?
Yeah. Thank you, Chair. Apologies for the need of the council.
Damien,
Who's also going to be with us here this evening, but due to childcare issues, has had to go home. He is hoping to dial in shortly. I know also as part of this point, Councillor Stranowski will also be here as well with their leisure portfolio, elements for a portfolio to supplement the agenda. Damien, do you want to introduce yourself?
Good evening, Damien Silliter from Severn Capital. We're obviously the current owners of the Oasis Leisure Centre and proposed developers.
And then you've got Rob Richards, as you all know, who's head of properties, are also this evening. Chair, as you know, some time ago now, the council made a decision to go into an agreement with Severn Capital for the redevelopment of the Oasis site, which would deliver us a refurbished Oasis, and we all know it's minus the sports hall, which has always been the contentious issue. It was gone into in detail by the administration at the time, and there was evidence to clearly indicate that there wasn't substantial support in the deliverability of a sports facility, which included the sports hall, and therefore wet and a very small dry site was the only option available. This was supported by our consultants at the time, and also supported by the companies who were seeking to deliver the running of the centre once the redevelopment had taken place. And therefore we went forward with that. The development, you know, included a deal which would be that Severn Capital would have to basically finish the redevelopment of the Oasis and have to open with an operator in place before the council then sign over the land adjacent to North Star for the Severn Capital to do the other part of the development of that particular site. That remains in place. Those contracts are in place. Severn Capital has now got a plan application in which Damien will talk to, and that's where we are presently with the development. It's still exciting news for Swindon, and we look forward to having sometime in 2026, so maybe early 27, but I'm hoping it will be 2026. The Oasis reopened for the people of Swindon. That captures everything where we are at present time. So then we want to say a few words of where we are.
Thank you very much for that. So obviously we all know we're in a very difficult economic environment at the minute, but we still remain highly committed to the Oasis as we have been from the start. The application is now in, so obviously that's within the public domain. If there's any questions you want to ask on it, I'm more than happy to have a conversation about that now at a later date. We have had the public consultation. We've taken on board a lot of those comments, and we feel that we are now in a position that we have managed to bring the application into a form that not only benefits the local community, but is also deliverable and sustainable.
if Councillor Spurs wants to come in, sorry. Sorry, did you want to come in?
All I will say is that, as Daniel said, the planning application now is in, planning department is working on determining that. And like Councillor Small, I look forward to work beginning ASAP and centre reopening at the early.
Thank you very much. Councillors? Questions? Councillor Adams?
Sorry, I apologise to Councillor. Just a clarification. Any questions we do have, if they relate to the planning application and it's sent to the planning application, then we will not be answering them because that is subject to the planning process, if you understand what I mean. So don't
worry, Councillor Small, I'll make sure.
Yeah. Because we don't want to be in a position to compromise ourselves.
Yeah.
So I'm sure Dan understands that. So, I mean, if it's a generalised one, then that's fine. But if it's about the application itself, then they won't be answered because that's not appropriate to be serviced in this.
Thank you, Councillor Small.
So yeah.
Councillor Adams?
Yeah, thank you very much. So it is a general question.
Yeah.
Do we know when the application for the pool is planned to go? Because at the moment we've got so let me just get this right. We've got the full planning application for several bits, but not all of it. And as far as I'm aware, the application, the actual pool isn't the full application, is it? It's the outline application. So my concern is we don't know much about the interior of the centre yet. We just know the grand scheme of the dome being kept and the next door, the dry side being reduced. So when's the full application?
You're 100% correct. So what we didn't want to do was provide a fait accompli. So given the timescales of the application going in, because of the timescales that we were restricted to under the development agreement, we didn't want the local community to feel that we were bulldozing in any way whatsoever. So what we did is we put in an essentially detailed application with the wet side left for a later date. That will now, following the public consultation and going through and looking at all the stakeholders' interests and all their feedback, will be submitted very shortly. Take into account all of that consultation.
Councillor Adam Makova.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you so much for your presentation and thank you so much for coming tonight. I would be interested to hear more about when you did the pre-engagement with the community. What were the key themes from the consultation and how you taken on board? What was the outcome of that? If actually anything changed in preparation for the application, or just to understand, like what is the impact of the community engagement? If you could elaborate on that.
No problem at all. So obviously it's been a very long process, not just about the local community involvement, but also the changing economic environment, also the change in demand, across the country. In terms of where we were looking to submit, we were a little bit delayed. I'm pleased we were, because following the public consultation, we made many changes to what we were going to submit to where we are now. And without talking specifics, that in generalism comes along lines of how the form of the pool looks, wave machines, slides, other items. So yes, it's very different to where we were originally. We've taken on board everything that's said. We've gone back to the third operator. We've negotiated with them. We've changed and pushed as hard as we possibly can to incorporate as many of those requirements that, clearly people have been very emotional about and that's very important to those people, and that obviously we've taken that on board.
Thank you. And follow up, were there any areas where you couldn't address them in terms of those key themes coming from the public?
There's always areas, you can never please everyone all the time. The biggest area, obviously, I feel that when the detailed application goes in, I think people will really see how hard we've tried to keep the original form of the Oasis as it was originally designed, along with the original character and what it was meant to be and what it stood for. The one area that obviously we've been unable to incorporate is the dry side. But other than that, I think when people look at it, they will see that we've gone a very long way from where we were to where we are now.
Thank you. Just one more question.
Yeah.
So I understand the ambition is to reopen in 2026, which is a great ambition that Councillor Small just confirmed. How do you feel? Is this ambition achievable, considering the current timescales and milestones?
We all have to have goals. Essentially, it depends on the consultation, the consultee responses, how many times we have to go backwards and forwards. But essentially, we need, broadly speaking, 18 months from the point of the planning approval to get the scheme open.
So do you have any contingencies, or where do you expect possible delays except the planning application? So we kind of post planning application, where would be those key risks? So
The key risks are always operator, contractor, financing. So there's never really any other areas that can alter. The operator, obviously, we're very close to having that agreed in the form of a an agreement for lease. So at the point that we get consent effectively, that crystallises the leasing position. The financing we are undertaking internally, as we have done all the way along, and we've remained committed to Swindon. And as you've probably seen, in fact, I think we're right in saying it's the only Sports England grant that's ever been paid back. So we've repaid that. We've repaid all the banks. There's currently no debt on the site. So we are in a position where we can take the site forward without third-party consents. The final part is the contracting element, and until we are a little bit further down the planning position, we effectively can't go out to tender with those plans. When we get to that point, we can go out to tender, and then obviously we can firm up that position.
Thank you so much.
Councillor Van.
Thank you, Chair. Just a quick question in terms of the community engagement that's currently been undertaken. I assume it's going to form part of an SCI as part of the application that's due to go in for the wet side. Is there any plans for further community engagement down the line, or is that the only community engagement that's been planned for sort of the Oasis site to go through the process?
When you say the only, I think it's been very thorough. In so much that we've had over 1,000 responses, and what we've actually done is we've categorised those into certain sections, and we've opened up the Oasis website, which has effectively reported back on all the public engagement. And do bear in mind, this hasn't been an overnight, and so whilst it was the only formal public consultation, we have been in touch with many other stakeholders throughout the period. So I do feel like that's been fully explored, and I do feel that we've captured most of those comments. However, there is always, through the planning process, the opportunity for people to make their objections or observations through that process. So, it's well within the public domain now. So there won't be a formal further public consultation, but obviously people are, within their rights to make any objections or, comments as they may wish. And we've always been an open door. So if you want to come to me personally, we've always been here. We're always capable of coming to talk to me, and we've always listened. You might not like the answer, but we've always been here to listen. And where you don't like the answer, we've always tried to give a full justification. And we've always been open to, this is our justification. Please prove us wrong, and we'll happily change direction based on that. And that's what we've done through the public consultation process, what we've done all the way through. So where we've given our view, we're not experts in everything, but where people have come through with better ideas, we've managed to incorporate them.
I appreciate it. I won't say more on the applications in case that's part of the planning committee, but also we can't discuss it tonight. But that was my question. Engagement.
Anyone else? No? I'll just would like to ask one question, David. Is how have you found working with the administration now to take this project forward?
Can you be slightly more specific in terms of?
It's like how helpful have the administration and the council been? Because we've been on this journey for 10, 12 years with the Oasis, and we're now at a critical junction that we're going to have the Oasis reopen very shortly.
I found the approach very professional, if I'm honest, in recent period. Understanding of the challenges that have faced us. It's never been one-sided. It's been fairly balanced. If that answers your question.
Yes, thank you very much. That's looking for. And final question, is there anything that you would require from Swindon Borough Council or committee to take up that is, in your opinion, is not going so well?
No, I'm fairly happy, and I'm fairly happy with the community engagement. Challenge is always good because it helps you think and expand one's mind. So thinking slightly outside the box sometimes, where, you know, when you come in to a project, you can sometimes be a little bit two-dimensional, one-dimensional. So, yeah, no, I think that the public engagement has been very good. And I think the local authorities have also been very supportive and very proactive.
Thank you very much. No further questions? All right. Thank you very much. Right, no, yeah, carry on. So, on this, we want to consider what engagement and activity the community wishes to undertake with members to discuss in ways that leisure opportunities in Swindon can be further enhanced. Members? No? Councillor Robbins? Did you want to speak?
Always happy to speak. So I think my main take on our leisure provision is, for an organisation that has got the financial challenges that we have at the moment, I'm really pleased that we've been able to bring forward some really exciting plans. So a lot of you will know that obviously the Oasis is currently at planning application stage. You'll know that the Health Hydro is undergoing a refit at the moment because of the town's funding that it was able to get. As a town, I think we should be absolutely delighted that the Modern Sports Hub has come forward, which I think is absolutely brilliant new facilities for the town. And the really positive thing is that there's a decent chance that we'll get another sporting hub at Wichelstow along the same lines. And there was the announcement last week that we've got potentially new developments supported by Sports England coming at Walcott. So for an organisation that is really struggling for money and being able to provide new facilities, I think there's a lot that's happening at the moment that we can be really pleased with. There's always a need to do more. Obviously, we've got ambitious plans for housing to meet the government's growth targets, and we'll always be looking to see what more we can deliver in the town. But I think we're in a good place considering the financial challenges we're working within.
Thank you. Councillor Adams.
So in regards to the request that Build a Better Swindon committee engage with members to discuss ways in which leisure opportunities in Swindon can be further enhanced. To that end, you know, we've had the successful Morden Sports Hub. We're in the early to moving into the mid stage of looking at what we're going to be doing in Wichelstow. Rightly so, because they've got a lot of house building down there. But North Swindon, and I wouldn't consider the Morden Sports Hub in North Swindon as more central than North, in my opinion. Others might disagree, but North Swindon feels like
fundamentally
it was North Swindon at one point, that's for sure, but not anymore. But with a leisure site in North Swindon going unused currently, and with development likely, it would be good if we could start those ground level talks on perhaps providing something in North Swindon over the next 10 to 15 years. I know these things take a long time to get in place, but you know, you have to start talking early. And like I said, Morden's been delivered sort of like early to mid stages with Wichelstow, and it'd be good to start talking about something for North Swindon, an area that will almost certainly see tens of thousands of new houses over the next 10 to 20 years. So it'd be really good to be able to start. And I'm talking about the Abbey Stadium, as I didn't mention. But it'd be nice to be able to at least save as much of that site as possible for potential future leisure use.
Yeah, can I just say, yeah, I mean, just one thing that the Modern Sporting Hub provides, there's facilities on there which are for the whole of Swindon, but the social experience is there for the whole of Swindon. And when you look at some of the clubs that are football clubs that are using the 3D kit, they are not my language, northern sector, because that's, you know, the northern sector. You've got Abbey Meads and clubs like that are using that facility. So it does support more than just central north, it's, the northern area. But I mean, again, I wouldn't disagree with you that, we always want to see, everyone would love to see more facilities all the time. But they have to be viable, we all know that. But one thing I would say is, if you look at like the Morden Sporting Hub, this is me, I apologise, this is me being rather big-headed in the sense from a parish council perspective. You do need a progressive parish council who is going to invest in that development as well as all the other funding factors. Because remember, the Central Swindon North Parish Council put in £600,000 into the development of the Morden Sporting Hub. And so, you've got to ask your parish councils of the north, would they be prepared to do the same to support their residents? Yeah, that's what I was saying. And I apologise, that's not meant to be.
Councillor Strauss.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, so everything Councillor Small said, and I think, so in the report, there's another leisure centre that we have in Highworth that we've just extended so that kind of sandwiches North Swindon, right? Morden is so it's like the argument where the Sheffield is officially in the north. So we can table Morden as functional, and then you've got Highworth. I would completely agree that, especially as we build out like Kingswood and all of those areas, we do want more facilities there. And as that building begins, there will be conversations with the developers. We would expect them to provide facilities for all those new residents. And this is entirely agnostic of sites, right? That they, at the end of the day, that both the communities through the parish councils and the developers will decide in consultation with us where exactly the best places and what facilities that are needed, right? So at the moment, obviously, we have a massive water deficit. 2 out of our 4 swimming pools are permanently shut, and we don't have a firm date when they're going to reopen the Oasis and the Hydro. That creates a massive problem for us. But a swimming pool is not something that can be built from one day to another. Something like a mugga, right, or a cycling course or football fields, those sorts of things can, or even just like a box for a gym, right? Those things can be provided more quickly. So I completely agree. And as the building in Swindon continues, we should completely be having those conversations, but we should be dynamic about where we are targeting those interventions.
Thank you.
And there's also a 3G going in Highworth as well on the old Highworth Football Ground.
Councillor Summerall, please.
Thank you, Chair. Couple of points. I support the leader in saying that we've done very well as a town in terms of the facilities. Very proud of the part that we played in bringing in the town's funding, which is delivering the work of the town centre leisure destinations. Also, I support the fact that, as Councillor Small said, the Morden Sports Hub, a key was the partnership with North Swindon Parish Council, so very welcome. For the committee, I suppose we're talking about leisure. How can leisure opportunities be further enhanced? We've got new developments coming forward in the use of villages, as Councillor Kowski said, in Kingsdown, and all of those have planned leisure facilities within them as part of the planning process. I suppose the trigger points are already there in the Section 106 agreements for those developments. Looking forward, I suppose as a town, and when we're looking at things like local plan, it's important the timing. I understand with development, the developers have to bring forward a certain amount of house building in order to be able to fund some of these things, and they will look to push back. But in my village, for example, we've got Redlands Grove, the first part of the new eastern villages, several hundred people living there already, and they don't have a play area for kids. Yeah. Literally, the only thing that somebody said to me recently is there's an attenuation pond at the front, which they're now putting higher fencing around because the kids have been creeping closer to look at that. We should remember that when people move into semi-isolated new developments, and lots of new developments that are on their own, but by virtue of how they've come forward, that we need to remember the timely provision of that infrastructure so that those children, those families have places for their children to enjoy themselves, to exercise. The newest villages includes numerous sports pitches, which will be run by presumably management companies rather than borough council or parish councils. Those are conversations for the future, but that's again built into planning consent. It's timely provision. So I think as the current administration looks forward to bringing forward a new local plan, think about that in terms of the provision, so that residents who live in places, as Councillor Adams has said, in North Swindon aren't left without sport and leisure facilities. So, Tapwell Garden Village is another example. It's a fantastic new development. Lots of talk early on. It's all part of the planning consent about sports pitches, which haven't come forward. And so, again, with people living in St Andrews, they're all looking for these things, and it's the timely provision.
Councillor Hopkins.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Yeah, mention was made of the work that's going on in Walcott, and in fact, there's further discussions going on which both South Swindon Parish Council and North Swindon Parish Council are involved in with Sports England, with the Sports Place Partnership, which is looking at areas of deprivation within the town, or that are more deprived areas within the town, but also where there's less engagement in physical activity. And so there's a lot of work, consultation and information gathering going on right as we speak through Voluntary Action Swindon, to actually identify what the needs are. So something will come out of that, and there's some funding coming out of Sports England towards the outcomes there, which could be supportive of some of the work that we're doing, but that's primarily focusing on, as I say, some of the more deprived areas. But nevertheless, that work, I think, will give us some information that we can take forward and use in terms of identifying what is then missing, what is still missing, and there will be areas that are still missing. It is really important that we work with the parish councils. I have to declare I'm chair of South Swindon Parish Council, but we've received a huge amount of support from the borough, from the Oakfield development in terms of funding that's enabled us to put a number of new facilities. We're working on them as we speak at Buckhurst Field. So there's a lot of other work that's going on that I think we need to watch, learn from, and actually use to identify the areas that are still missing. I certainly recognise the points that Councillor Sumner has made in terms of new developments, and certainly I'd love to see the development at Witchelstowe, and would like to see it be developed along the same lines as what we've got in Morden. But I think there's challenges in terms of what we might find there and what money and the space available for that development. So it won't be the same as Morden, but it could certainly contribute quite significantly in terms of a new development. And I think we should expect that, as Councillor Sumner says, where we are developing in the New Eastern Villages, we need to recognise that sports facilities or leisure facilities of various descriptions are actually key part of that. Our parish council currently run 21 play areas. I think West Swindon on their own, I think they smaller parish council, but I think you have something like 20 something play areas. So there's a series of sports and leisure offerings that are coming through those parish councils, and I think we need to work together as parish councils and the borough to make sure we can leverage our resources and what fundraising we can achieve to actually provide more facilities for our residents. And it's going to happen over time, but it is going to be informed by some of the work that's going on with the Sports Place Partnership at this very moment.
Thank you. Councillor Adam McCover.
Thank you, Chair. I think the majority of the discussion tonight so far has been about infrastructure on the ground. But I think when it comes to enhancing leisure opportunities, I think we need to be a bit more creative and also think outside the box, because ultimately what enhancing leisure activities is about contributing to health and well-being of our residents, helping them with their mental health, their physical health. So I think it's also about promoting activities that are already taking place on the ground, like Severfield Park Run, the Lydia Park Run. There's a new event that's just been created in Swindon, which is longevity games, that's happening this weekend. So I think Borough really needs to step up the game and really promote this and get as many people signed up as possible, and maybe think of some scheme where we can support those people that maybe can't afford these activities. Because, for example, Sevenfields Park and Lydia Park, they're for free. Longevity games, you need to pay some entry fee. But I think, you know, there would be a good opportunity for people to engage with these type of events and promote them even more at the larger scale. And also form better partnerships when it comes to duty practices, to create ecosystem where we all work together. Obviously, the infrastructure is a key part of it, but it's not the whole picture. Thank you.
Marina, do you want?
I did. That's such an important point. Thank you. Because it's all well enough to just build stuff and pour concrete, but it's how do you get people actually using it and getting the benefits of it? That in many ways is a much bigger challenge, right? So I think there's two things to say around that. Number one, the health and wellbeing team are very engaged with that. It's different portfolio, right? It's like my portfolio is pouring the concrete, and their portfolio, and Jim's portfolio, Jim Brown's portfolio, is getting people to use it. So it's, you know, a conversation there is definitely really useful. But the other is just that, and I know they get a lot of stick, and I'm not doing unpaid PR for them, I promise, but GLL do have really good programs because they are a social enterprise. They do have really good programs to reach out to underserved communities, including like bursaries and things that are, you know, they don't cost, and free cards for care experienced young people and things like that. There's a lot there. And it might be worth, if this committee wants to continue that conversation, it might be worth getting them in some time to talk about that.
Councillor Small.
Thanks, Chair. I just wanted to follow on from Councillor Summers' comments. He's right on the local plan. It's all about timing, as he knows, and money, unfortunately. And I agree that we've got to look to make sure those facilities are in. And even if and then heavy time, and maybe there needs to be some greater priority put on smaller spend stuff. And I say smaller spend, I mean play area, putting that in isn't that expensive for it when you look at the overall development costs, and that could come in a lot earlier than the present time. But maybe one of the lessons from the northern sector development, when it was originally planned, originally looked at, was that the position of schools within as the local authority and local provision was completely different to what schools are. I don't think, you know, when we're planning the northern sector, academies were never ever thought of. It was local management or grant maintained, and that was about it. Nothing else was on the agenda. And a lot of the provision was envisaged to be delivered through schools and through school spaces. And if you look at, I think the Brunel, is it Brunel, the main secondary school then?
Happy Park.
Happy Park, yeah.
It was.
Yeah, Brunel. Sorry, I said secondary school 1, as it was called, and primary school 6. But that was where one of the major sporting hubs was going to be for the northern sector, as part of the original plan. But we all know that schools are not the best deliverers of community facilities and community support facilities because of the conflict between schools and public usage. And we need to, and one of the things we need to do is when we're looking, and I think to use your term, Gary, of management companies, but the people who are going to manage that facility, is that you have a managed people who are going to run it are people that are not going to just be for their own interest. And so if you add, like taking on the Whittlestone one, Neil was on about was that if you have a football club running, then they're not going to be looking to bring in rugby. They're not going to be looking to bring in hockey and so forth. And so you need not saying so much a neutral, but a sporting organisation that will look wider than just one particular sport. I know from when I was with the Wilkes FA, when we moved into devices to Green Road, that's when, unfortunately because of COVID, that's when I was part of the company. But there's archery down there, there's other sports down at Green Road besides football, and that site is managed by the Wilkes FA. There are other sports going on within that area, and so that's one of the things we need to do. And you've also got to have an organisation who's looking to develop some of those sports. So taking on board what Stanka said about getting people involved and active. One of the things like the cycle track is there's casual usage. Turn up and you just use your bike and use it as a safe way of using your bike off-road. Those are the sort of things that you can get opportunity. You've got progressive. Somebody's going to look to try and develop that service more than just using it as for a club venue. So that's some of the things you need to put in place. So it's about not only providing it, but as Stanky said, about getting that casual usage to get more people using things and getting into sport.
No further questions?
Sorry, Chair, but the leader's had his virtual hand up for ages.
Sorry, leader.
That's all right. I know how tricky it is to chair a meeting when the people on the screen are behind you. I just wanted to join in on the conversation about North Swindon and sporting provision, and just remind everyone that there's a really exciting development at Kings Hill, which has got a huge amount of sporting facilities included in the application. And I think that's a really interesting development that hopefully, if we can unlock it through the planning system, will really deliver for North Swindon. And I think if we are having any conversations about plans, it's important that we bear that in mind as we're doing so. Thank you.
Thank you. Right, so members.
Kingsdown.
Kingsdown, you said.
Yeah, no, he said Kings Hill.
Oh, Kings Hill.
Where are we going to put that?
Kingsdown.
So members, on the this council motion on Oasis, there were two tasks. First, to consider the engagement activity of community wishes to opportunities in Swindon to be further enhanced. And point two was consider and discuss the Oasis refurbishment proposal with Southern Capital, which we have. Are all members satisfied with today's discussion? Okay. He's not here. One sec. Vicky's telling me that cabinet member for communities and partnership, it might be better to have him here regarding this discussion as well. So it could be for another day.
They're just very intersecting areas, right? There's a lot of overlap between the facilities that you build and the community that they serve by the nature of things.
So next time we'll have to call all of you together.
You're basically going to have to put up with a bunch of us now.
It's always a pleasure to see you, though, Chair.
Councillor Adam Cover.
Thank you, Chair. I was just wondering if it would be possible maybe have a follow-up discussion, invite GL to the meeting.
Yeah, I would say all at the same time, like all the time.
Yes.
Thank you.
Need to put that in the work programme, shall we? Okay.
Inviting some of the parish councils.
Absolutely.
They're already well.
Every single one of us will be declaring an interest in that.
Yes. Every single one.
Nobody's gonna be allowed to vote.
99%. So, members, I know Vicky has suggested that. I think because we have to work with the parishes as well. We can't, the borough can't do it by itself. So I think that is a good point. So shall we invite the parishes as well?
When you say about the parishes, are you saying all of the parishes? Because there's about 20 of them.
22.
No, 20,
Yeah,
20,
depends how you count them. but
yeah, Englisham,
Right, Chair, can I
Councillor Hopkins.
suggest that what might make sense is for us to explore what we think the parish councils might be able to help us with in terms of the provision. And then we can inform them of where we think they can work with us as a borough council. And from that, certain of those parish councils will clearly have particular interest and capacity, because that's very often an issue with some of the smaller parish councils, and come along and be able to talk about some of their plans and how they could work with us to actually develop some joint plans around this activity. And I think that might be a better way of doing it than just asking them to come along and talk.
Good idea. Good idea.
Good point, good idea.
Task and finish group then.
More,
Yes.
yes. Do we need a task and finish group for this? Rather than just having a discussion here in the 3 or 4 meetings we have in the municipal year?
I would say yes, and I think to have it as in terms of as diverse as we can in terms of interest as well.
Everyone in agreement with that?
Right. Yeah.
Okay. And my other suggestion would be on this agenda that could we have in the future, I know it's going to develop 2026, say in 6 months' time, to see where we are with the Oasis refurbishment. Is that,
Happy to give a progress
Yeah.
report to you.
I think that would be ideal, so we know what is going on. If that's all, then thank you very much.
Thank you, Chair.
Councillor Small. You staying, are you?
I am, yeah, but a whole other report.
What do you think?
So, sorry, can I just check, so the recommendation is that you're going to set up a task and finish group. Do you want to delegate to myself that I will then contact the members of the committee afterwards to see who wants to be on it, or do you want to say everybody wants to be?
Please, Vicky, I think that'll be the best one. Thank you. Right, agenda 6, a review of the proposal for the development and rejuvenation of the town centre. Who wants to speak on it? Leader, do you want to kick off, or shall I? David, could you come to the table, please?
More than happy to kick off. So I think we're really excited by the opportunities that the Heart of Swindon plan presents, and we're really pleased by the positive feedback that we've received so far on the plans. We're very much looking forward to continuing conversations with a number of people around potential projects within the Heart of Swindon plan, and really excited about the event that we're holding on March the 17th in the Houses of Parliament. Invites have gone out for that event. It is massively oversubscribed, which is really exciting, and people are really keen to be there. So hopefully we can have a positive launch of the plans, can really sell the concept of the Heart of Swindon plan to investors. And what's really nice is it seems to be getting almost unanimous support from the residents of Swindon. I think, let's be clear, partly because it's really hard not to realise that the town centre needs some regeneration, but hopefully it's also a message for us that people are endorsing the approach that we've come. Those 8 ambitions, I like to think, are the right ambitions for the town centre. And it was really pleasing at the Let's Talk Swindon events that people seemed to be really behind them. There were people who were really keen on particular ones. Obviously, the heritage community were really interested in what the heritage ambition is all about. Lots of people talking about connectivity and how we get the green corridors through the town centre. But a real positive note that people were really positive about housing going into the town centre and the move towards more density. And it was really pleasing that people could understand how that could contribute to vibrancy in the town centre and hopefully creating a real buzz that would get people back enjoying the town centre and lead to it having a usage 24 hours rather than very much during trading hours for retail as it is at the moment. So anything I think that we can do that brings the town centre to life in the evenings and at weekends is going to be really positive. But really keen to hear from the committee if they've got any questions.
Thank you. David? You want to say anything?
But just to make sure, just to echo the leader, the division has landed well with partners and with residents. Very pleased with the response from the consultation.
Councillor Adams?
No, I'll miss that.
Okay.
Daniel. I'd just like to mention that recently there was some discussions going on within the town centre about the impact of graffiti and the general look. And I think a number of people were quoted in terms of Vince Ayres was one. I think Councillor Sunder may have had some comments to make on it. And as a result of that, the issue came through to South Swindon Parish Council, and I felt that it's something that all parishes could work on, because you need a combined effort to try to remove the scourge of graffiti, and it has to be a policy and practice to remove it as quickly as possible. So what I suggested was that we bring in Councillor Grant with his portfolio to actually look at working with the parish councils and the borough to try to actually address that, because sometimes, I mean, I was in with Councillor Watts yesterday in the new transport hub in Fleming Way, and you look around and it's a really, I think it's a really attractive, it's developing into a really attractive site now, but you look at what things are actually jarring when you look around. It's a lovely open site. The actual bus stops, the bus shelters look really well thought through and well designed, and they're very protected. But then you see, as you look through, you've got one or two buildings which are still looking pretty poor in comparison to the rest. But you've also got graffiti, which is showing up on some of those buildings, and you're seeing that. And I think it creates the wrong impression about town centre. So I think that's something that at very low cost, we can start improving the town centre. You can't put a mural on everything. You know, you can put murals in lots of places, and there's probably more we can do. But where you can't put murals, you need to clean the graffiti off, and you need to actually work harder. I think we need to work harder trying to identify the people who are causing it and deal with them as well through the police force. So, you know, I think that's something that we can contribute as parishes with the borough to try to actually address graffiti within the town as a whole. And I think that's something that I'm sure a lot of parishes would want to participate in.
Councillor Adams?
Thank you. I have a main point, but just to go off what Councillor Hopkins just said, can we ask that BMW hang a car off the side of one of the buildings again, like they did in a few years ago? That was always quite interesting to see, especially if it's going to be a main thoroughfare again. But my main point is, I'm broadly in favour of this plan, because in reality it's essentially the same plan that's been in place for the last 10 years. That's not a bad thing, because it is what needs to be done. We need to diversify the town centre. We need to do all of these things that are listed. But where I disagree is the level of support. You know, and it's not just social media, but if you go onto social media, you see any article about something happening in the town centre, almost universally negative about new housing going in there, the Fleming Way going in there, old offices being converted into housing. And it isn't just social media. I speak to a lot of people in my community who are almost universally negative, and the recent general election has given me the opportunity to speak to people across the town. And again, it's almost universally negative about the town, and they don't like the way that it's going. Now, I disagree with them because I do believe that this will pay off eventually. We do need more people living in the town centre, and we do need a more mixed use. But it's my opinion that we are not selling that to residents, regardless of what this Let's Talk Swindon event's done, because my experience speaking to people randomly selected, for lack of a better word, is that broadly they don't agree that what we're doing is right, even though I believe what it is right what we're doing, and we need to do better to sell that message to the town residents.
So what you're saying is the communication could be better. All right, leader, you want to come in?
I think I find it really difficult to take criticism about the Let's Talk Swindon events from some of our opposition colleagues, when yet again, not a single Conservative councillor turned up to any of them. I think the Let's Talk Swindon events were rightly praised as genuine engagement by the peer review body. And I think the fact that we are holding these events, and one of them was a sellout, that is a sellout for a council consultation exercise, shows that the level of engagement we are doing is totally different to what was done in the past. And I think it's really important that those people who take the time to come and speak to us at those sessions and who were universally positive about the plans aren't forgotten just in the pursuit of a few simple political points. It just isn't reflective of the discussions that were held at those events.
Thank you, leader. I think that's on our next agenda. So we'll speak more on that next agenda.
Can I come back on that quickly?
Go
on. Those are essentially self-selecting samples. They're essentially the worst type of way to find out people's opinions. But you've essentially just said, I like this opinion, so we're just going to ignore everyone else's. That's essentially what I've just heard there, which is what we keep on hearing time and time again from this administration. Listen to what we like and ignore what we don't like. I've just told you that I've spoken to loads of people, and I'm not talking to anybody go on social media. 99% of people are negative. But leaving that aside, because again, that's not always the best thing, talking to people on their doors, they are constantly saying they do not like what we're doing. Now, I like what we're doing. What we're doing is right, but we are not getting the message across. And I don't know how that can be argued.
Thank you, Councillor Adams. I think Talk Swindon is the next agenda, so we'll talk about that a little bit more. Okay, Councillor Sumner.
Thank you, Chair. As the leader knows, I support the vision because, as I said, it's as Councillor Adams has just said, it's very similar to the vision that we had previously for the town centre. I know how difficult these projects are to come forward. You know, we've had one moving at glacial pace down at Kimmerfields probably for the last 4 years on a small development scheme. PDR around the town centre seems to be slowing. I'm talking to developers who are finding that permitted development rights, converting offices into residential is becoming less viable. So the viability in the town centre is a change. Yeah, I support the vision for the heart of Swindon. I just think, and I understand where the leader is coming from in terms of the Let's Talk Swindon events. It's great that you have feedback from genuine residents who visited these events and they're putting in their 2 pence, as well as Councillor Adams' comments, which are absolutely valid online, hugely negative people, but then perhaps that's an online thing. The reality is this is going to take a long time. The viability in terms of delivering development within the town centre is very difficult. The key to what the new administration can deliver is pretty much where we were in terms of we leveraged £100 million plus of government investment into our town centre, which is delivering the Fleming Way project, it's delivering the Health Hydro, it's assisted with the carriage works, numerous other schemes. I hope that the leader and his colleagues can use their influence, because the underpinning of the Knowledge Quarter is going to come from significant government funding through Homes England and other parties.
Councillor Adam Cover.
Thank you, Chair. I would just like to say, if we discussed this topic a number of times in this committee, and the feedback I always give, the issue I always raise is about safety. It's not featuring in those vision ambitions. And I think because I know it can be there implicitly, but it's not explicit. And, you know, when I then read through the appendices where we got the feedback from residents, safety comes up all the time. You know, the vision is great in terms of, you know, redevelopment, creating all the green parks, make sure they're connected. But unless they're safe enough, again, we're going to have issue with people coming there. And because it's missing from those principles, I don't think that it really feeds into the work program. So that's my feedback. And, you know, it's the same feedback I always with the safety.
You want to comment?
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Councillor. Absolutely. And we've heard some of those comments that come back through the Let's Talk Swindon events with our residents, but also with our staff. And we've been listening very carefully to how that feels. We've noted through comparison analysis that we've done after that, exactly where some of those pinch points around safety are. And we're really taking that forward to have a look at what we can do as short-term interventions to help with that. But just to reassure you, there are 8, and I'm not looking at the most recent draft in front of me, but there are 8 references to delivering safe environment neighbourhoods in the town centre across 5 of those different themes. So it is embedded, and it's not one that we're highlighting as one that is positive, which we're trying to build those ambitions and that aspiration, because that very much speaks to the ambitions of the administration. But it also speaks to the point that Councillor Adam makes there, that the Proud Centre as the 8th ambition is the one that we have to own. All Swindonians have to be proud of their town centre. If the residents of Swindon aren't talking Swindon up, it's very difficult for anybody else to do that. Now, I always make clear that I'm not a Swindonian and I don't come from Swindon. But I grew up in a very downtown town, and it's universally known for being very poor and pride. And nobody talks the town, but there are really good qualities of the town. And Swindon has some fantastic qualities, and Swindon has some amazing opportunities. And the ambitions really sit to frame what the art of the possible could be. There's nothing more frustrating than me than seeing a really negative headline that somebody's put out, whether that's in the press or on Twitter, wherever it may be, of talking the town down. Why don't we turn the tide, push the clickbait the other way, and talk about the excitement and the opportunity that can be delivered in Swindon? There is a huge opportunity here. The ambitions that the administration have worked cross-party on to pull those together, as Councillor Summers identified, are the right things that deliver for Swindon. And we've all, not only as elected members, council officers, but for residents of Swindon, to come together to get behind these core visions and these core aspirations for their town, and to be able to talk Swindon up as we go forwards.
Brilliant.
I keep saying you should be involved in it. It's good for this impassioned speech, right? Thank you, Jane. I completely agree. I think very specifically to your point, and this is when we talk to people, especially me, just by happenstance, because my ward is, you know, has a boundary with that area. So I talk to people who have no choice but to walk through the town centre after dark and stuff like that, because that's where they live, right, all the time. And what comes out is that the main thing that makes the town centre feel unsafe is the emptiness of it. Actually, and even if you look at, you have more visibility and more expertise in police reports, right? But my understanding is that even if you look at crime reports, it's not that like the amount of recorded crime is unacceptably high in the town centre. It's just that it feels unsafe because it's deserted. And if we have more people living there, and that will hopefully attract more businesses to operate there, it will be less deserted. And it sounds like such an insultingly simplistic answer, but it genuinely is the answer. Thriving communities are safer communities, right? Because the people who live there want to take care of their community, and they want to keep their community good. So it's almost as if that entire vision almost the whole overall purpose of it is together with the pride to deliver that comfort, that safety, that like feeling that you're living in a flourishing community.
Oh, you're coming back into it, but yeah, I was going to agree with Karina's point anyway, so, but you can.
Yeah, I just wanted to cover it. I understand, and, it's really positive to have these good ambitions. But for me, safety is the ultimate bedrock. And I know it's going to be iterative approach, we need to get more people in the town, but I just don't want to I want to make sure that we don't lose sight of safety. And for me, it's just not enough of it in divisions and there at the moment.
Thank you, Chair. Councillor Kogo, we'd be happy to take a conversation with you afterwards to
How
work
would you
through
add in?
that, to look at how you feel we can embed that. I want to be clear, I don't want to sort of make it an explicit piece because it becomes a negative piece, but we have tried to build in to do that. But if there are more elements that we can build in a sense, we would absolutely take those forwards. But there will be further documents that are coming behind this about certain interventions, certain priority places. There'll be updates about street lighting, updates about security that will sit around wider committees and wider visions that will line into this. And there's still an awful lot of work and yards to go with South Swindon Parish and working with Councillor Hopkins as well in terms of how we try and drive through some of this. And picking up the point on graffiti earlier is just one element of where there are crossovers. We absolutely want to continue those conversations. There's other conversations I'd love to get into, but we're working through some of those. But, it is a case of pride has got to start from the ground up. It cannot be a top-down, the council tells you to be proud. Residents have got to feel it, and we've got to try and build the momentum and the excitement for that, and we can't do that by being negative or on the downward turn.
Will come in there?
Yeah, thank you. I like the points from Councillor Koga and Councillor Szymkowski tonight. I think it's all well having the heart of, from my phone. It's all very well having the heart and vision. And I did note in the report tonight, you did not pull any punches in the current state of the town centre. I think that's important for having such a frank discussion. If you're going to sugarcoat things, you're never going to get to the bottom of the problems. But I do think that safety is I understand the point you're trying to get a positive plan and not focusing on some of the more negative aspects in that sense. But it is quite unnerving at 6 o'clock on a Friday evening, even in spring, when it is still relatively light. It's deserted, and I know that's because shops close at 6 and it's not necessarily something that can be changed from the Swindon plan, but that safety element will have a significant impact on how well it survives, how well it adapts. And you're right, having more people living in the town centre will help with that. The other thing I'd flag is police presence as well in the evening. So I know they are good on the club nights, the Fridays and Saturday nights, because there are some issues in the town centre. But that sort of thing as well, I think more visibility, just seeing a police officer can help with those sorts of concerns as well. I think that's one of the things quite key, just making the town centre feel safer. And therefore,
You want to come back?
go on, that's right.
Yeah, no, I think that's been captured really, really nicely there, Councillor Ballinger. I think you've picked up on a lot of the points and the challenges because the aspiration to deliver significant density of housing in the town centre not only brings a vibrant community into the centre, it stops Swindon having to find those edge of locations or building into the countryside space in the urban sprawl, the historic development. We've still got those developments in the pipeline. They are part of our housing solution. But we absolutely need to find some higher density housing within the town centre to meet our housing demands. Councillor Sumner accurately pointed out that there are viability gaps and pressures in there. And the way that we overcome those is to create a better space, a better community, to bring up the land value and bring up the house prices, but in a way that's still affordable for residents, but also drives the market forwards. And part of the launch on the 17th of March is to be able to launch the vision for the heart of Swindon, to really able to platform Swindon in the best light, to show what the opportunities are here, not to get bogged down on an individual parcel of land to say this could be what that is, but it is for the developers and the investors and for the wider community in the professional development sector to be able to see and to hear and feel what could be delivered in Swindon. And you've heard tonight that Seven Capital are continuing their investment. Their planning application is finally landed that is being worked through now by the officers. There is an awful lot of appetite to start getting into Swindon. We really need to capitalise on that to be able to drive this change. The council can't do it. We can't fund it. The private sector has got to come in.
1 second, Councillor Glenn. I just want to ask regarding the bid, because I think it was with the bid having the business as an organisation to run the, manage the town centre. So I know, so in this place, is there something, I read on the report, there are some plans in place. How advanced is it, and is the willingness from all the shop owners and businesses to come together to make sure the town centre is revitalised properly, and they are working together with us?
I think interest is increasing. It's fair to say, I think with the conversations are still comparatively early stage, right? But where we kind of went through a big dip, where the bid disbanded, and a lot of especially the bigger businesses in the town centre kind of threw up their hands and were very kind of despondent and pessimistic about what's going on. There's a little bit of, increased energy behind the town centre, and that means that the people who are already there, and we're talking the bigger businesses, right? Not individual shops on Havelock Street, who are all amazing, and they've done an amazing, mini regeneration project on their little strip of street, right? But broader, there is increased interest in talking about the town centre and talking about it and talking about events. And David runs the town centre group, by the way, which the police have a strong presence on. So there's a strong kind of safety angle to those conversations. And we just need to capitalise and grow that. And as Jade says, right, the launching this plan and putting a lot of positive energy behind that is what's it's already paying dividends, but that's what's eventually gonna help us bring all those people to the table, because at the end of the day, if they want to bid, they have to invest into it. It's gonna cost them money.
Okay.
So that's where that is.
Thanks, Maria. Councillor Valland.
Thank you. Sorry, I'm going to sidestep slightly to a different topic here. The parliamentary reception in March, who's been invited? What's that? Is that sort of aimed at businesses and those types of stakeholders, or have you got a different group? How's that looking?
Councillor Calder, it's predominantly prospective investors and developers, but also other partners and agencies and government departments, but predominantly investors and developers.
So sort of still down the private sector route rather than government, basically.
If there is a mix, we have got some community partners, some investors that are already in Swindon. We have all of the national house builders in Swindon. We do have growth happening on the ground with key investors and key stakeholders in Swindon. So some of those parties are known to us, but it's about bringing them into the room, making sure that they're available for that conversation in the room about why they're in Swindon and how they're continuing to invest in Swindon to sort of help grow that over time. It's a real broad mix. It's a mix of all separate stakeholders, but everything is to launch the Heart of Swindon vision, which is what we've all been consulting on. Everybody's been working together to try and refine and get that vision into the right space. As I said, it's not something where we're looking to pitch an individual site or an individual option. It's about building on that impetus, and then hopefully we can start building that conversation behind that and starting to put together through our website a list of investment opportunities or a list of partnership programs that we want going to continue to talk about how it's moving forward.
So like the top level, rather than trying to get more down to the details at this stage, it's about building goodwill and that's.
James, can I ask, because we definitely needed a vision like this, so the 8 points is fantastic, but how are we promoting that outside of Swindon, not just within Swindon, outside of Swindon? How are we promoting? Are we just looking towards the east, towards London or west or whole of UK? How are we promoting Swindon?
Thank you, Councillor. I don't know how, there's a number of answers and angles in your question there that reach into all sorts of elements of devolution and all other wider pieces going on in the government. In terms of the launch of this event at the moment, we're looking specifically at private sector partners and building together with our existing stakeholders within the community to ignite an interest in Swindon, to put Swindon onto the map, to show what we can offer and what we can deliver as an engine of growth in Swindon. And we've seen previously, and why this is part of this ambition, pulling the vision from the administration together, working across party political lines, is to recognise that this is for Swindon as the town, what's needed to help it grow and excite the market, but also to lean in to help unlock money, funds, grants, but also the private sector money to flow. Because there are challenges in the current wider fiscal market, and we do need to try and hone that down and put Swindon, a marker for Swindon on the map. And it's why Swindon? Why not Peterborough? Why not Rugby? It's got to be wherever people are thinking about their investment, they're thinking about Swindon.
Okay. Thank you, James.
Ask a follow-up.
Just one sec. I've got a public, the lovely lady. Unfortunately, because you had this when it was public question times to ask questions. If you want to ask anything,
I don't want to ask a question. It was a matter of safety, so I just wanted to make a comment. The standing orders do say that members of the public can give evidence and make representations. So while you were bringing up the subject of safety, I mean, I could write in, but while you're all congregated here, it might be easier to mention it now. So it's not a question. It's adding evidence to a subject that you're discussing.
Normally, it's just for the members and officers to discuss, but I will let you speak because we only have got a few public speakers and nobody spoke at the public question time. So I'll make it exceptional today and let you say a few words.
It's a matter of safety. I mean, I have a male colleague who's walked along Manchester Road in the afternoon, and it's not something he normally does. You know, he doesn't know Swindon that well, but he said it's since he last walked that area and since he's recently walked it, he said it was the only time he felt concerned because there were gangs of men on every street corner. So if males don't feel safe, then Swindon don't. I also help out I steward at Swindon Artist Forum at the top of town, and you can people watch from there. So, you know, I can go in and they'll start, you know, the other stewards will tell you all the excitement. If somebody got tasered outside, you know, by the Savoy, there's drug dealing going on in that big main gap there. So there's two males, and then the young lads on cyclists will come along. They seem to get the instructions from those two males and then go off and do a pick-up. So it's these sort of things that are safety issues, and I think it's easier to bring it up now, you know, while you're all here congregated, and maybe you can take note of it, that if men don't feel safe, or we can see things going on at the top of town is rough, you know, but I'm sure you'll
Thank
know
you very
that.
much.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
You're welcome. James.
Thank you. We will take those comments.
Thank you.
We do recognise there are challenges. What we're trying to do is focus on how we move the dial to put a step change in to overcome some of those challenges. We could spend all night talking about challenges and we move no further forward. So we've got to try and look at what we pulled no punches in the report, recognising the challenges. We've heard about the concerns around the town centre. We are looking at that. I really do want to make sure we're focusing on what the opportunity can be, and making sure that where we have got those challenges, we're looking at the solutions to overcome them that are not interventionist with, you know, more police or more security or more cameras. It's got to be about how do we create higher footfall, how do we create higher overlooking, over passive surveillance, how do we increase activity in that space so that people feel safe and that there are other people around and it's a bright and welcoming environment as you're in the town centre. We can't just do that with retrospective interventions. It's got to be wholesale regeneration and change.
Okay.
Okay. Do you want a question?
Yeah, I had a follow-up to your question. So I just first ask, in terms of the promotion of the Hearts of the Pride launch, is that being done in-house, or are you using consultants or public affairs agency? How's that working?
We're working between parties. As you can imagine, that, you know, we're not particularly au fait with Houses of Parliament launches in Swindon Borough Council, so we're working with Allies and Morrison, who helped us create and craft the vision, who are more au fait in delivering these spaces. But we're also working very closely with our comms team and looking to ensure that we've got the right narrative for politicians locally and for members and for all partners to be able to speak to this launch, because the more that we talk about it, getting press is probably the wrong way to do it. We want our partners talking about the fact that they're attending the launch, that they're excited for this vision, and they're investing in Swindon.
Thank you.
Okay. And no further questions? Thank you very much, James and David. And I think it would be a good time, do you think in about 6 months' time to come back with updates, James? Would that be too early or too late?
We can come back as the committee workload would be helpful, Chair. I think that we can do an update in 6 months' time. It may be that we've got updates or drafts or changes that we need to bring before then. So we'll keep in the loop on this, because this is a clear priority of intervention of how we're moving forwards in delivering, the missions of a better Swindon. So for us, this is something that we certainly want to be the day we'll be updating on the committee and providing an update on the workflow that we're doing, along with the variety of cabinet leads and members that are in this space.
Councillor Barrington?
Thank you. So on that point, I was actually going to ask if the launch event's in March and our next meeting is the 1st of May, I think.
No, we're trying to have if you look at the work programme in April.
We're trying to have it in April, are we, instead?
No, there'll be one in May, because we have so much work programme.
Yeah.
We couldn't put everything into in one meeting, so that's why we're trying to get an April meeting.
Oh, so I was going to ask, with the launch event in March and our next meeting after that,
April
rather
or
than
May,
rather than 6 months' time, could we have an update on how the launch event went? Only a short, I'm not saying a long agenda item, just a short one on the key highlights of the launch event, how things went. That's would be helpful.
Yeah, absolutely, sure. And I think it'd be valuable. The leaders mentioned that if the number of people who have responded in the positive to the invite is outstanding. We'll have well over 100 senior people from developers, investors, organisations like the Department of Business and Trade, Homes England at that event. So it's a big deal. So we'd love to be able to give you feedback on how it went and the contacts we've made and the feedback we've received.
Okay, that's fine. Then you have a date in April or May to come back. Thank you very much. Agenda item 7. Outcomes from Let's Talk Swindon events. Who wants to present this? Michael?
Yeah.
Oh,
Hi.
please. Sam. Chief Executive, Councillor Robbins there, Martin Bell, is it coming?
No, he's on holiday, which is why you've got me here. And I am very much the ground. I can't remember which way around it was. Thank you for the opportunity. I think there's quite a lot of duplication between what you've just heard and this paper. So as I understand, it was the purpose was to understand the elements of what happened at the Let's Talk Swindon events that were pertinent to the Build a Better Swindon. And I think you've heard probably quite a lot of that. If I just give a bit of context around the events and then the lead may want to hang up. So we carried out a series of 4 Let's Talk Swindon events that myself and the leader that were set events, and then we had a series of drop-in events where people could come talk to senior officers and officers from across the council about a range of different issues. And I think quite a few councillors also attended those drop-in events. The 4 main events were incredibly well attended, and we also did an event with partners as well, the rugby club. Really well attended. They were in 2 parts, and again, this was advertised to anybody who picks up the Swindon newsletter and advertised more broadly with the help of our colleagues in the mainstream media and through social media. So very open to anyone to attend. We did them in 2 parts. So obviously the first Let's Talk Swindon events that we held back in, I'm losing track of when we did them. When we held them back in 23. they were all about helping us to develop the Swindon plan. So the first half of the events were about what has happened with people's feedback in terms of the development of the Swindon plan and just playing back the changes that we made as a result of resident feedback, and also talking about progress made in the council since the last set of events. We also use that as an opportunity to feedback around things like the resident survey and the peer review, to try and build confidence in the council. And that part of the session, we then asked residents to participate in a bit of a some roundtable consultations around trust, because you will be aware that our resident survey, while every indicator bar how safe people feel at night, interestingly, and how much people want to be informed of what the council does, those two went down very, very slightly. Everything else went up. But one indicator which bothers me particularly, and I'm sure it will bother you, is around how much people trust the council. And while it went up from quite a low base to a less low base. So we asked residents to tell us what it's a really difficult question, actually, and I think residents generally found it quite hard. But what do we need to do to improve trust in the council as an organisation, not the administration, not, just what do we need to do as an organisation? So that was the first half, and then the second half was very much walking residents through the draft Heart of Swindon plan and the 8 ambitions, and asking them for their views on those. And obviously you've heard from Dave and James and the lead and Strinkowski about what's happened with that. So that was how the events ran. Really, there was really positive feedback from those events. I mean, as people were leaving, I had quite a number of conversations. It's evident we still have a lot more work to do, but I think the approach is welcomed, and people, are asking for more. There is definitely something, and you'll see in some of the comments about how we engage more broadly as an organisation, and obviously some of that is covered in the comm strategy that went to Cabinet in December. And we are constantly looking for ways to engage more broadly, just in terms of where some of this work will go. So it's really disparate, like the feedback that we've had, particularly around trust, but a lot of it is being used in terms of our transformation programme. So there's an awful lot about how people want communication. There's an awful lot about how people find doing business with the council. That is really rich intelligence that we are feeding into our transformation programme about how we improve within a limited financial envelope, which you're all aware of, and how we improve customer access and getting things right first time. So there's also some really rich stuff in here for me around our organisation's culture journey and about how we hold ourselves to account for, answering the telephone, responding to people in good time, and a lot of feedback that you'll find in the first part of the session. And I apologise for how unfiltered the feedback is, but it's all very, very honest, and that's what's gone in. It will really inform our At Our Best programme, which is our culture change programme, which we're embarking on right now, and will take us through to 2028. So I'll probably stop there. The leader may want to say something, I don't know if James wants to say anything, but hopefully the paper is useful.
Did you want to say something, leader?
Yes, please. I think that the Chief Executive's done a really good job there of explaining what the sessions were around and how they ran. I think that there was a real value in having that conversation about trust with people, and it was really interesting to get the feedback. I think that, part of the reason that we've put that very unfiltered feedback in there is part of our quest to be as open and transparent as we can. I think that there are some really good ideas in there. I'm not sure I agree with all of them. I'm not sure that I necessarily need to start a podcast. I'm not sure the world needs another white, middle-aged, middle-class politician starting a podcast. I think that market is probably already saturated. But there are some really useful ideas in there that I think would be really positive. I think that the overwhelming feeling that I got from attending both rounds of Let's Talk Swindon events was how pleased people were that we were holding them and how they were really keen that we keep on doing it. So I think we've committed to running another round of them, maybe at a time when it isn't quite so cold to go along to them, because there was a bit of a theme that they were quite cold because we were holding them in December. So I think in the summer, lighter evenings will be a really positive chance for us to engage with residents again. And I think we've got to keep on doing this. It's really important that we keep these communication channels open with residents and make sure that we get as many people as possible feeding back this way. But yeah, really pleased that we're holding the event, really pleased by the feedback that we're getting, and hopefully it's something that we can continue into the future.
Thank you. Councillor Ballender.
Well, I just have two lines of questions. I don't mind who answers. Either end of the table, who answers. I couldn't see in the report anything about attendance numbers. Do we have any information on how many attended, and then also by event, and then also how many unique attendees there were? So if people came to multiple ones, they weren't counted multiple times.
I can answer the second question. I'll have to get you. They were full. I cannot remember what the capacity was, so I'll get you that. I attended them all, and I didn't see the same person twice. So there were, other than staff, and I should have said that in my introduction. Like, there is something about how much colleague energy goes into putting these events on, and I would just like to say, like, people unselfishly gave their time, and a lot of people did attend all of them. But I didn't see the same resident twice.
And would you say attendance for this round of Let's Talk Swindon versus the last round was higher or lower than the first year? Or about the same?
I'd say probably about the same. I think we did a couple more events last time because we thought, because a lot of this was around the heart of Swindon, we did focus very much around the town centre this time, whereas previously we did some set events in Highworth, for example, and Wroughton. We didn't do that. We did the drop-in sessions there. But in terms of the numbers at each event, they were the same, but there were fewer events.
And then obviously the feedback, I mean, it's very good that you've just summarised the feedback. There's no spin on it, and it is just very unfiltered in the same way that the previous report was. So I think that's something to be celebrated in the sense of the transparency side of things. Were you surprised at any of the feedback that was received then?
I'll let the leader talk to the heart of Swindon feedback, if you don't mind, leader. But I think on the sort of trust one, it did give me reason to think, actually, are we asking the right question? Because people struggle to articulate why they don't trust us and what we could do more to trust. So there is something about, is that, while I think the question is, it's fair, I think people really struggle to articulate how they felt one way or the other. I was pleasantly surprised by how much understanding there is about how difficult things are for local authorities, and that's been a bit of a slow burn. I know the previous administration, we tried really, really hard to help people to understand, just how much of our money went on to social care, and I just think there's been a sea change in understanding about, probably nationally as well as locally, but that was a pleasant surprise how supportive people were about that. And I think the thing that we really need to harness, and it speaks to a point that I think Councillor Hopkins made, particularly at the partner events, there was very much so what do you want us to do to help? And I think in future events we probably need to be a bit more proactive in our ask going into it. People have helped us to shape what the Swindon plan looks like, but we probably need to be a bit more proactive around how could you help with this particular problem, because there is definitely a groundswell of people who are really itching to support us.
Councillor,
Sorry,
did you want to come in, leader?
Thank you. I think in terms of the heart of Swindon, the major surprise is the one that I talked about on the night, is that when we did the resident survey, only 78% of people said that they were disappointed with the town centre. And from the door knocking that I've done, I was anticipating that that number would be higher, because it's consistently raised on the doorstep as something we need to do something about. I think the feedback on the plan wasn't full of surprises. I think, you know, there were the odd comment that people liked the bus station or something like that, which was a bit of a shock. But in the main, it was broadly along the lines that you would expect. And I think there was lots of really positive stuff about how much people value a lot of the things that are happening in Swindon around the history and heritage, around arts and culture, and it's how we try and make more of that. And I think that's pretty genuine feedback that we really need to take on board. But in the main, the feedback was very much the town centre isn't what we want for a town with the ambition of Swindon, town the size of Swindon, and there's a real need for us to try and get on with improving it and making a real difference that is going to have genuine regeneration that people can really get behind.
Thank you. And I think that's also where the comments we were talking about earlier around communicating what we're trying to do in the town centre, I think that's where that also ties in. That the comments in this show, where I think we can improve that side of things as well. I think that, well, that was who said that earlier today, but that sort of echoes that, I think, as well. But no, thank you. That's it, I think.
Councillor Hopkins?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. When I read through a lot of the comments that came out of these engagement sessions, you have to sort of sometimes take a deep breath, because there's certainly comments that were quite raw and unfiltered, and probably pretty negative. But you know, that is something that we can work on addressing. But I also felt there were lots and lots of ideas that were put in there. So I'm really wondering if there's any work stream for recognising the lack of resources within the administration, but to actually try to group some of these comments and themes to see whether we can develop some work streams. For example, there are a number of comments around communication that were communications related. Well, comms is actually quite cheap in a lot of, unless you're taking a full page ad in the Times or the Telegraph. It's actually not expensive. A lot of it's on social media and our own websites. So there's things that we can probably do quite cheaply and effectively. There was something which I thought was brilliant. It just stood out, you know, the possibility of promotion of the Science Museum in the town centre. So the thought is that if we had a number of these empty units repurposed so that whether that's the Science Museum or other bodies could go in there and actually utilise the space to promote or to fulfil some of these asks, I think that would be really, really positive. And certainly, you know, perhaps the Science Museum again doesn't have a lot of resource. They probably don't have funding and resource to be able to put something in there. But through volunteers, something may be possible. So I just wondered if anything's going on around that.
Yeah, I'll try and answer that. I think the bit on the communications point. So what was really interesting, I think at every single session and the partner session, very much was how do we amplify what is going on, not just at the council, but across the borough. And, you know, if I take the first round of Let's Talk Swindon events, I was sat in a session at the football club, and somebody started talking about the Escort window painting, and I had no idea. I mean, I've worked in the borough for 9 years. I had no clue. Yeah, amazing. So one of the things that we've taken immediately out of the Let's Talk Swindon events is we are setting up, and I think it is set up, and we'll have its first meeting very soon. Is all parish councils community organisations have now got a sort of, it's not even a comms network, but an information sharing network where they will be meeting together so that virtually, so that they can actually, we can make sure we're sharing messages from arts organisations, culture organisations, parish councils using our channels, and they can do the same for us. So that has come out directly from these Let's Talk Swindon, because we heard it loud and clear that we are greater than the sum of our parts in communication terms. So we're absolutely on with that. I've forgotten the other bit you asked about. Oh, and then but the bit about volunteering, I think there's definitely something in here as we start to develop out what our sort of community-based models look like, and how we can absolutely start doing more work on, on a real neighbourhood level. How do we take forward some of this stuff? And for me, there was just definitely something about, we are not always the organisation that is best placed to do things. So as we take forward all of this, we can't take forward everything. We haven't got the capacity to do everything, but all of these are, in that transformation programme, all of them have a place. And particularly, as I said, there's some of the culture stuff, and definitely some of the sort of how people can interact with it. There's some really rich stuff in here that we are absolutely picking up. I think what we've got to think about is how's the mechanism that we play that back. But a lot of people who came to these events have now signed up for regular updates, so we are able to go back and keep talking, and hopefully that group will build, because they're really, they're like your first followers, aren't you? You've seen that YouTube video. These are absolutely.
Thank you, Sam.
Yeah, no, just to reinforce that, and this is not, it's not an outcome necessarily from these events, but I was really pleased that they kind of reinforced something which I've been banging on about the previous year, which is that every time I go to talk to an arts organisation, to talk to a community arts group like the SP Community Centre, who do the Window Wonderland and the Storytelling Festival and like a bunch of other stuff, right? It's the same story, which is that people say there's so much going on in Swindon and nobody knows about it, right? It's like the tagline of Swindon. Our slogan is there's so much going on and nobody knows about it. And I think there's a lot of pluralistic ignorance. I don't know if that's a concept you guys know, but it's like pluralistic ignorance is that when everybody believes that everybody else doesn't know something, the outcome at a societal level is as good as if nobody knew it. Right? So in Swindon specifically, on the Heritage Board, the leader and myself went and did a mini presentation about the heart of Swindon, specifically 2 heritage groups. There's a heritage network that meets quarterly at the library as part of the local studies centre. And they were incredibly positive about it all too. And they're quite a cranky constituency, so I was very pleasantly surprised by how enthusiastic they were. And the bit about Swindon's heritage is absolutely a case of pluralistic ignorance, because so many people actually, they themselves care about Swindon's heritage, railway heritage, earlier heritage, the dinosaurs, the art collection, whatever it is. And they believe that everybody else doesn't care. And so the outcome of that is that as a town, we don't have a strong groundswell of community enthusiasm about that. And that is something that we are hoping to change. One of the things in that space is that there's a consortium which the council is participating in, but not leading. So we don't, as Sam says, it's not necessarily the right thing for local government to do everything. Somebody who was born in the Soviet Union, you don't want the government doing culture. That's not what government is for. So there's a consortium that's applying for a place partnership bid from the Arts Council. And one of the things that kind of bid is designed to do is help places build that, do that placemaking and build that brand and that sense of place. And some kind of clearinghouse, whatever that ends up being, an Apple website, whatever it is, a magazine, to get those initiatives together to kind of burst that pluralistic ignorance so that people know, that other people know that there's a lot of cool stuff going on in Swindon, so they can be openly enthusiastic and talk to other people about it. That is absolutely going to be one of the aims of getting that funding. So the specifics of what we have from these survey results are going to be such useful fodder for that work, because we then take the overall kind of idea that we know Swindon needs better marketing and better communication with all those things that go on here, and we can apply specific ideas to them. So, Neil, to your point, absolutely, some of those will be operationalized quite directly.
Excellent.
I just have a question, Chief Executive. So you've got all these questions, you know, and all the different answers from the residents. Are we gonna communicate back, like in the social media, in our website, and say, listen, we have this, you know, let's talk Swindon, and, you know, unfiltered, and say, this is what the residents have said, and so people know that other people are talking about certain things that they feel, but they couldn't feel. Some people I speak to, they think it's not worth even talking. It's the same thing with the police. You know, when people have issues and say, contact the police, or they're wasting space. So there are a lot of people who say the same thing about the council. You know, it's waste of space. Have you done this? You know, have you contacted anyone? So for that reason, and you constantly talked about the trust. So I think that trust is going back to the public again and saying, listen, we did the talk, we listened to you, these were the things, and do you have like a top three? Say, this is out of everything we listened to and what people told us, we're gonna, as an organisation, as you already said, we haven't got the funds or manpower, human resources, whatever, but at least we're gonna do this, X, Y, and Z, at least. Not everything, but certain things.
So with the first round, when it was very much about developing the Swindon plan, when we had a very specific section of the Swindon plan, well, not Swindon plan, of the report of the Swindon plan, which was, these are all the ideas, these are the ones that we could take forward, these are the ones that we couldn't. So we've done it for the first round. I think this round is a little bit more difficult, and we have responded to everybody who came and told them, this is what we are going to do with your information, but we haven't, you know, and it's food for thought, and I suppose me and the leader will probably have to sit and think about what is the best mechanism by which to say, right, these are the things which, because they're going in different places, you know, so we definitely have the mechanism for the heart of Swindon, because that obviously is going to come back into cabinet and will be very communicated really heavily. I think we need to give some thought to what we do about the first bit, which is the trust bit. So I'll give that some thought. We haven't as yet, other than the initial thank you for coming and these, you know, these are some of the things that you said. We haven't closed that loop yet. And we'll definitely do it through the next set of events, but whether we do something in between, we haven't yet.
That is great. What I was trying to say, not just to the people who came, just to, you know, on our website or our social media, to express this is what happened, and so if when you have a, you know, let's talk soon the next time, people will be more encouraged to come forward and come to this meeting.
I completely agree. And I need to give that some thought.
Okay. Councillors? Okay. Do we? Anybody thinks anything's come out of this for us to take forward, or just to note this?
I think it would also be nice to actually for the administration to identify things that they've done that we can sort of look at and say, you asked, we did, and we need it in that type of clear format so that people know and get used to the idea that they state something, they ask for it, and it might not always be done, it might not always be possible, and it might not be appropriate, but things that they've asked for are being delivered, and that would be nice to see, I think.
I think if it couldn't be, why it couldn't be?
Yes.
Yes.
And
well, why not yet?
Yeah.
And I think one of the things that we need to tie together is the outcomes of this, and also the resident survey, because that's the same, isn't it? You know, you told us these things, that you care about these things. This is what we've done about them, and I will definitely give some thought. This has been really helpful. Thank you. I'll give some thought to how we how we do that and where that goes. We can definitely do.
Okay. We know, notes.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Agenda 8, council motion on improving development for the blind and visually impaired. Which officer do we have? With Tom? And can I call Councillor Ricardo as a second on the motion as well? There's Will Stone and Councillor Ricardo. Well, he's an MP now, so we can't call him. Tom, would you like to? What?
Just as tabled, basically, it was a great motion. It was really important. It's one of those things that, you know, if we thought about it before, we'd have done it. The answer is yes. Tom can talk about the detail of how, yes, but essentially, this should not take long.
Okay, let Tom say a few words. He's been waiting here all day.
I know, this one you.
Thank you. In very brief summary, what Councillor Strinkossi said, yes, that is ultimately, you know, agreement with what the motion was back in March 23, basically to involve associations and bodies representing people with visual impairments in the planning process and how we can do that better. The recommendation set out in the report is that they become consultees on certain types of application. It wouldn't be appropriate to do that on all, because a lot of them would deal with a minor household applications that wouldn't be appropriate. So we, in the report, our recommendation is that they be consulted on major applications involving public realm works and involving buildings and applications that have some kind of public access to them, and they become a statutory consultee or a locally statutory consultee as part of that process. Definitely. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you very much for considering this motion. When the full council was going on and the motion doesn't move, we think that it's being kept aside and will not be considered again, but this is not the case, but thank you so much for that. It is surely a fundamental right that everyone can walk the streets and that they can do so independently and safely. Statutory planning guidance reminds us that the requirement of consent widely and importance of creating inclusive environments. Working with experienced colleagues in social services and consulting with specialist groups such as Wiltshire Blind, Guide Dogs UK and others, we can significantly improve and increase levels of walking and using public transport among groups not currently active. This can bring significant social, environmental and economic benefits, not just to travelers, but also to the local community. We have already known that it is important that vegetation is cut back and does not encroach over curved edges onto a footpath, and that the location of street furniture such as seats, signs and bins is carefully considered when sited in public areas. We also know that the use of appropriate tactile paving can assist with orientation and is essential to warn of dangers such as flights of steps as well as indicating road cross signs. What else can we do? And we must be doing. We must ensure that people with sight loss can attend public consultations and have alternative formats or materials ready to support their involvement. We must, where appropriate, arrange site visits with visually impaired people where the routes are mostly frequently used. We can involve the editors of talking magazines to help notify and inform and give Swindon residents access to council news and information. There is much we can do. I was honored to second this motion, and I'm humbled by the sense that we all have the will to do what is needed. We need to work collaboratively to create better environments for every day, and this must be a whole council and board approach. Thank you once again for considering this.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Adams.
Thank you very much. So I supported this back in the time, and I support it now. I think anything we can do to improve access in the town for everybody, let alone blind and visually impaired people, is important. But one of the most important things is, whilst we discuss these sorts of things, is it's trust that we'll actually deliver on them. And to that end, my question really resolves around is, we implemented a program to look at improving the current streetscape by banning pavement parking, or at least a trial. I know a lot of councillors put a lot of effort into that towards the end of last year to start that process to look at a new into an area where this could be trialled, with the idea being like it was supposed to be selected towards the end of last year. And at this point, we've not heard anything back.
Can I,
Yeah.
before I need to, all the councillors were emailed, all the 57 borough councillors, and not a single councillor came back.
I've got, no, that ain't true.
I remember that.
And I've had confirmation.
I've had confirmation from officers.
Can I just answer that?
It's just about trust. I want to make sure that these things are done.
Yeah. I just want to clarify that wasn't the case, that some councillors did come back to it. There was a criteria that was set out. What did happen was none of the councillors actually fulfilled the criteria. What I am concerned about is that officers haven't gone back to.
Chris, do you want to come to the table?
That hasn't been communicated.
No, that's fine. If you're something like that now, I'll get that sorted. So essentially, a few councillors, it wasn't a great deal of councillors came back to it, but some did. But there was a criteria that was set out, and I think that criteria was worked through with the groups, what that criteria was going to be, because I think initially there was a motion to put pavement parking across the whole town.
Yeah.
And I think then it was agreed that that wasn't feasible. I remember that yourself and Councillor Adam Covert came forward with a different motion. Yeah, there was, I think, about 5 or 6, maybe 7 councillors came back with some information, and I must admit, I need to go and find out why you haven't been responded back to after that. So
I think it's across the board, essentially, none of us have been.
No, that's fine. So I'll take that on board. So let me take that away and find out why that information didn't come back.
I mean, just to reiterate, it's about trust, really. It's all very well and good at saying something, and it's about making sure that we deliver as well. So that would be very helpful.
Okay, thank you.
And just to come back on that as well, okay, Chair, so in terms of just this issue, these organizations will be added to the list of statutory consultees. That doesn't say that 100% of their comments on every planning consultation are going to be accepted. You know how that works, right? But it's literally a case of adding them to the list at a time. So you can rest assured on that one.
Councillor Barron.
Thank you, and I want to thank Councillor Newcombe for coming tonight to speak on this. I fully endorse the recommendation, I think, tonight. I remember back in March 23 when this was being discussed, it was before my time as a councillor, but it was during the just before the election period, and Swindon Guide Dogs. I remember speaking with one of the people who run that, so they live in my ward. I remember having that discussion about this and also pavement parking as being two real significant issues they were very concerned about. So I think it's great to see it's progressing, and I'd fully support the recommendation under section 2.
1 second, Councillor Adams, go on. Councillor Adams, apologise because I did ask the officers after we had that discussion back in July, and I was told there was no councillors for pavement parking, so I'm stand corrected, so apologise for that. My own experience, this motion, I think it was a long time in coming. I remember in 2019, when I was the mayor, I had the guide's dog blindfold me from my offices and walk me through the town centre. And that was a wake-up call. It was, I'm now very conscious of pavements. Is that accessible for disabled people, blind people, partially blind people? And, when you go to the traffic lights, have they got, the ones which just goes around? So I didn't even know that before, So for disabled or partly blind people it's safe to cross. So I think this was a long time coming, and I fully support this as well. So well done. And I don't know if, I think we are limited unless it's public space. New housing is I think it's difficult, as Tom said. So, but it's a great start, and we'll see what happens in the future. Councillor Adam Covert.
Thank you, Chair. I also fully support the motion and the implementation of it. I hope it gets fully implemented. And thank you so much to Councillor for coming tonight. It was good seeing you in the committee. I just wanted to ask, So I know this is purely focused on certain group who will become statutory consultees, and which is great. I was just wondering if the part of looking into this motion, there was kind of not any opportunities to maybe add more people with other disabilities. So, and kind of segueing into the comments we read from the residents from Let's Spin the Talk events. There was, for example, comment about opportunity to link better with Voluntary Action Swindon, because they talk on behalf of all the other groups. So I was just wondering if, you know, if it's something that you've considered.
Do you want to take it? Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I think part of the motion does make allowances for any other organisations to make themselves known to us. If I think it said it, an agreement, if any other organisation makes itself known and proper accreditation, it can also be consulted as a representation of a certain community, for example. So, I don't know if that answers your question, is that?
I suppose it does. Then I suppose the question, and you know, are they going to know that that's the opportunity? Because again, like we don't know, but then it needs to be known publicly that these type of organisations that can come forward.
Yeah, but that's a good point. I'm not quite sure how we do that, but I'm sure we can come up with a mechanism for working that out.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I think what's clear here is we